Hello, this is Alex here, Digital Empowerment Manager at Promo Republic. Thank you for joining the new episode of our interview series, part of Promo Republic's Emergency Marketing Center. Here at Promo Republic, we are currently devoted to helping businesses survive the COVID-19 crisis and prepare the framework for the financial rebound that's coming. That's why we're preparing a hub of useful content for marketing leaders to explore the latest news, articles, webinars, and interviews on how to maintain trust and relationship with your clients utilizing digital marketing. Be sure not to miss any of our updates by subscribing to the weekly newsletter.
I've been with Legal Shield over a decade. It was something I started part-time, just a lot of folks do just to make extra income. I really love what the company was about. And over time, it just went from kind of a part-time side hustle before we called it side hustles to, a full-time career. And so, I have my personal business that, market the service and recruit other agents and associates, and then take on responsibilities for here in the state of Georgia and a division of the company for young professionals where we're bringing on young folks and giving them the tools and the platforms to be able to develop themselves personally, professionally, and go out there and then take on the world. So kind of multiple things.
How is COVID-19 currently affecting the processes for your company?
It's really just pushed us even further into a digital format, which, a lot of us, me in particular, do Zoom calls and more digital and social stuff anyway, where I think, not just in our company, but in society at large, you have the people that are on the cutting edge, you have some that maybe are trailing and they're holding on to some antiquated, practices and systems, which is, I suppose, nothing necessarily wrong with that. But it's just forced us to be able to, go online a bit more, move a little quicker, move a little faster. So all in all, though, it's been a really net positive. Business is up on really most metrics that we have to measure it by. And, we're just like today, right? You and I are on here versus at a coffee shop. I mean, obviously there's a little distance in between us, but actually getting more done now than ever. And I don't know about you, but I'm busier now than I ever have, which is the opposite for many people, but that's certainly the case here.
When it comes down to your position, so you're the director of marketing for Legal Shield, to my understanding, what is the current biggest challenge that you're facing though right now today, specifically in your position?
So, a few things, right? So we have a corporate structure, and I'm definitely, I don't want people think I'm the end all be all director. So I'm kind of over a couple different departments as far as the state that I live in, as far as the young professionals group, and then I kind of have my personal business within the umbrella of Legal Shield, right? So it's kind of three different things going on there.
Okay.
But the biggest thing is just getting everybody on the same page, right? Anytime something changes, this change is very much similar to what happened in the U.S. in 2007, 2008, the financial crisis. You had a lot of people that, when fear hits, they just kind of sit down and go, let's wait. You know what I mean? We don't know what to do. We're afraid to make a move. You have some of the people that are, very entrepreneurial spirited, right? They're doing new things. They're trying to, find the next level of whatever it is in their business they're going to do, whether it's a new marketing effort. Maybe it's just, more workload, right? Some people take that, right? Let's just double down on the work we're doing. You know what I mean? So you have a lot of things going on there. So just, getting everybody on the same page, saying, hey, let's not panic, right? Let's, here's how we're going to move forward, right? Kind of have the one band, one sound methodology, right? So you don't have a bunch of people out there just scrambling around. So I would say, if anything, that's kind of the biggest thing, which technology like this has definitely helped out in a big way.
And looking across your network, do you see that essentially all the representatives that fall under Legal Shield, do they have kind of that tech savviness to them that they were able to leap with this momentum?
Yes and no, right? There's two groups for sure. You know, a lot of folks, yes. And, you know, it's like I said, you know, the company is up, you know, many people, their businesses are up. So I wouldn't say, you know, it's been a net positive overall, but certainly there are those that have really struggled, just as simple as doing a Zoom call. Like, you know, a lot of folks have never been on a Zoom call, which is amazing, which I've noticed that in the marketplace, just with, you know, customers, potential customers, where a couple of months ago you say, hey, have you ever heard of Zoom? They haven't. Now when you say, have you ever heard of Zoom? It's, oh yeah, it's on my phone already. Right. So that's been a positive, but certainly there are many of those folks that have done quite well in the past. I mean, making fantastic incomes in their endeavors, who, you know, are kind of finding themselves where they were at the top of their game, you know, a year ago. They're really struggling today. So, you know, that both exist.
To touch upon essentially your clientele, who your representatives deal with on a day-to-day basis, how have their needs evolved? Is there any kind of big shift, maybe big notice, like a trend that you're seeing?
Oh, for sure. So, you know, we're dealing with legal situations, that's Legal Shield, and identity theft situations. And I just read a stat this past week here in the US, at least, 59 million people have not got a refund from something, right? So it's like the event was canceled, the flight was canceled, the whatever was canceled, and it could be a $400 flight, you know, where they can't get that refund. That's something that we can assist them with, right? So had a friend of mine, for example, they canceled the flight, they couldn't get it back, they're going back and forth with the airline. Had one of our law firms reach out to them, wrote a letter, airline gave it back, and it's only $400 in this case, right? But if that person's on unemployment, that might be the difference between, you know, feeding the family this month or not, potentially, right? So a lot of that situations, you know, a lot of folks get, you know, just really confused. You know, we have stimulus checks, we have, you know, with everything going on, you know, tax questions, you know, all these concerns that everything was running on pretty smoothly for the most part, and all of a sudden it's like a spike and like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then on the identity theft side, yeah, same thing. It just spills over, where, you know, there's, you know, fraudulent things going on with stimulus checks, and then there's fake testing sites and stealing people's information. So that's that. And then we deal with small businesses and even large companies, and same type of thing. There's just a lot of fear, a lot of what's going to happen next. You know, I have questions, not sure where to go. I can't afford, you know, quality help. And that's really the gaps we're filling in. Right. And so, it's great that we're able to help a lot of people, but it's really, you know, and I don't want to say everybody. I mean, I it's not like I have, you know, every conversation the sky is falling by any stretch of imagination, but certainly there's a good percentage of the population that's like, man, you know, things were going really smooth, and all of a sudden bottom fell out. I'm not sure what to do.
To really touch upon that, so essentially you're seeing that huge spike from clientele demand that's really correlating to everything that's going on. From a brand standpoint, were there any sort of maybe implementations or changes kind of made to kind of maybe like general blogs, some frequently asked questions that quickly address the client's concern? Like, what changes were done from like your business standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so with what we do, obviously we're dealing with legal situations, and so there's some things in place from like a high-end corporate level where have a lot of statistics on, you know, consumer behavior. And so, you know, we put through different channels, whether it be social or getting stuff to our field representatives, as far as, you know, things that people are dealing with, top tips, you know, stuff about COVID-19, and based on some of the statistics of why people are calling in, what they're dealing with. and those types of things. So yeah, there was a bunch of stuff, made available as far as on the, kind of the grassroots level, as far as, collateral and communicating what's going on, and, kind of position and how we can help with that. Right. So obviously you want to be, top of mind marketing, right? So, maybe it's not today that person, does business with you, but, you put something in front of them and say, hey, this is what we can do. So a month from now or 2 months from now, when something happens, you're the person they're thinking of, right?
Definitely. Right now is really the time, not essentially to be selling, but just creating demand and
Right.
delivering value and relief, like, so we can all get through this together. So,
and even on like social media, and this, it's kind of like before watching. The way I think about it is, before you're watching a TV cable, right? And I don't know, basic cable has, let's say, 30 TV stations. And so you're like, oh, number 5 and number 13, those channels are my favorite channels. Then all of a sudden, it's like somebody comes and you get, whatever satellite or whatever it is today, Netflix, and you have 500 channels, right? So where, you were doing your little social media thing, whatever you were doing, it's like, oh yeah, I'd have so many people look or whatever. And, of course the algorithms are always changing. Now it's like, you're just getting lost in the sea, So yeah, definitely got to step up. Everybody's got to step their game up for sure.
you brought up social media. To expand upon essentially various marketing channels, which one do you find is like the top level priority right now from a corporate point, and then from your brand ambassador and representatives?
That varies, so we kind of have different divisions in our company. And so, it depending on which of those channels and what, the representative might be focused on, it kind of depends. However, everybody, the world's on Facebook, right? The whole world's on Facebook, especially the little bit higher, the older generation. I don't want to call them old. That's not nice. They're older than me. I'll say that, right? So that's huge. And just on the, for example, the Facebook stories, right? So everybody immediately jumped to Facebook Live, and all of a sudden you where you normally get 2,000 views or whatever, it's like, where did everybody go? And so Facebook stories, for example, are just like, the engagement is through the roof to where it was just a couple of months ago. So that's big. Personally, I like Instagram myself. Not getting the huge amounts of viewership as on Facebook, but I think that's really just the next, I don't want to call it the next trend, right? Because TikTok is there and all this other stuff, but it's certainly for a younger demographic, like, that's the place to be. But then from a B2B standpoint, like, obviously we got connected on there, and that's huge too. Me personally, I don't spend a ton of time on there. Maybe you notice that in our communication, but have a bunch of colleagues that they kill it on there. So from a brand standpoint, LinkedIn would be the last. Certain folks that really kind of have their niche there. Like, I know some folks in our business that do amazing there, but I would say probably Facebook number 1, Instagram number 2.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, is this channels that essentially there's maybe some sort of AdWord budget still being run on that, or is that mainly just for communicating your message and updates to your audience?
Yeah. It's just more of a presence, okay. Really. Okay. Yeah. So there's nothing going on there now. Individual representatives, they're networking and stuff like that. They're pretty heavily that, and those are mostly business to business folks.
To expand upon that, do you see an increase in, when it comes to the representative level, like a demand, like, hey, can you guys help me out how to do social properly? How do I leverage brand assets and essentially build upon that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of folks, again, maybe it's a generational thing, are just afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then there's that whole population, because most people, right, that are working with us are part-time, you know what I mean? So it's not, they're not, I don't want to call it a hobby, right? Because it's not a hobby, but take that same thing, right? You could be a hobbyist fisherman, know all kinds of stuff about fishing. You just don't spend a lot of time doing it. And so, you get a lot of folks that are, they'll say things like, for instance, with Facebook can be very divisive at times, and, with political statements and just all kinds of stuff. So, people can shy away from it. And that's just really, to the average person, they haven't used it as a tool. They've just, for the lack of a better way to put it, they've been used by it, right? To consume. So yeah, getting folks started just down that path, do they have to use it to be successful? On one hand, no, but for anybody that wants to, I mean, yeah, sometimes it can be an issue. Of course, younger folks, I think even the ones that, maybe have, 5,000 friends on their Facebook or have a big Instagram following, it's like to have the following and to have the friends there is one thing, but to be able to interact with people and engage with them on a business level is a completely different conversation, really, right? So a lot of folks think, well, I'll just put something out there and people come running, and it's if it was that easy, right? We wouldn't even need to have a conversation about it.
Agree with you there. There definitely needs to be that framework and just overall strategy on how you're going to execute through those channels. So to expand back to corporate, there is a strategy in place for those channels. Is that something that guideline maybe is shared to the representatives that do want to be on social?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And
so
to expand upon that, with the nature of your business, how is compliance handled to make sure that essentially representatives who are highlighting your brand and delivering that message out, that they're not making really crazy statements that ties back to your agency?
Well, yeah, there's a pretty expansive social media team, that are corporate employees that kind of look over things. And, and really, just from years ago, there's a pretty good culture that they've created, from the top down, and they're very clear in their guidelines. And so, any craziness that they're able to pick it up pretty well, right? Of course, you can always get some things slip through the cracks a bit. But yeah, the guidelines are in multiple places that people will see. And, even at times, just, certain things, if somebody's using the brand in a wrong, obviously we're dealing with legal situations, for example. So it's like, if somebody were to say free legal services to everybody, we do everything, don't worry about it, right? Like that would get picked up very quickly, and that person would get, a personal message or a phone call right away. You know what I mean? And if it wasn't attended to, that definitely would be acted upon. But on the on the rep level, it's really up to the representative, on kind of what they're looking to do and how they go about it. But in a large part, for my personal business, right? Because I still have my personal, I'm marketing the services, I'm doing my own thing as well, and it's like, I don't do a ton of outward, like, hey, this is the brand, here it is, right? Because that's the brand, but I'm the brand, right? So my personal pages are more about me and less about the brand.
Definitely. So it's essentially having that brand behind you to execute, but you're selling your story in those channels. Agree with you on that one. To touch upon essentially kind of post-pandemic world, once we start seeing just like general statewide opening and business getting back to usual, how do you envision digital marketing shifting? Do you feel like what was implemented is here to stay, or do you think there will be some changes done to the strategy behind it?
It's always going to change. It's always going to change, right? Like I keep thinking back to like 08, 09, because that was a scary time. And I was kind of, I was in my early 20s, and I come from the insurance world. And like the main, and it still is, things got better there, obviously, but for that time being, for example, there were a lot of successful, I was home and auto, property and casualty insurance. There was a lot of successful agents that would say, like, hey, just go out and form relationships with real estate agents and mortgage brokers, and they're going to send you all kinds of leads, and it's going to be great. And so I went out to do that, and it's like, we don't have any business, right? Like, we're going out of business. So you did see a shift from a lot of independent mortgage offices and stuff like that to, during that time, they kind of, most of them fell by the wayside, and you got, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae and all those, and saw more of on a high level. But anyway, there's always going to be changes. Like we do a lot of in-person events, live events. I think a lot of those, you're not going to go away by any means. They're not going to be replaced, but a lot of them will not continue. That's my personal belief. You'll see more Zooms, more whatever the next thing is. If there's an addition or a change, and somebody comes out with something else where you can do better, I don't know what it even looks like, cooler hangouts, virtual hangouts, or whatever, you'll see more of that, right? You'll definitely see more of that. It's not gonna be a normal, it's gonna be a new normal for sure, right? So and it needs to get faster, right? The communication needs to get faster, right? So 10 years ago, I could talk to you today and we meet for coffee at the end of the week type of thing. Like that's not to say that, you'd forget me or anything, but like, you're going to get 1,000 messages about other things between now and then. Right. And so, getting from point A to point B with a customer, I think just needs to get a lot quicker. And that's what we're seeing now. And with the Zooms and the virtual stuff, that's just what it's been able to happen. Right. So that, like, the folks that I learned from when I started, really in my career, roughly 12 years ago, I was learning from people that started 20 years before that, and that's when, right, that's when you called somebody on their home phone and they always answered 100% of the time. Right. So, you're getting taught certain things about sales and marketing, and it's like, just with caller ID, it changes. So it'll continue to change. And, so for sure.
What is like a main takeaway, or just something that you want to leave the audience with, just from your perspective, like free thought?
Yeah. Let's see here. My big thing right now, and I've said it a couple times in our talk, thinking back to, the last recession, I actually was let go from my corporate position. This was not Legal Shield, it was a different company. And they did a big downsizing, and then I was, and I saw during that time, and I was just kind of really getting going with Legal Shield, that there was some people, like, it was a small percentage of the people, like, came out of that. Those are the ones, they were grinding, they were doubling down, they were looking at the next innovative campaign. They came out of that, and they're the big hitters now, right? There was a whole bunch of people that just said, hey, let's wait till it gets better, wait till it improves, and then there's another population that was just, they were taken out, right? And I think this time is going to be the same, right? There's going to be some folks that hold on to, this is the way we've always done things. It's always worked this way, and it's not going to be good for them, right? There's going to be another population that just says, hey, let's wait to get back to normal. Let's just hope this ends sooner than later. And it looks like it probably will. And then there's the folks that are doubling down. They're planning, what's my next innovative campaign? What's the next strategy? Let's double down on this now. And when we come out of this thing, those are the people that are going to be majorly winning in a big way, in whatever they're doing, right? And so be this group, right? That's the key. 'Cause I've seen it happen. I'm still pretty young, right? I lead young professionals, but I saw it happen, and I just said, next time I'll be ready.